we plan to screen the second half of the documentary, that's the exile years. However, in order to provide us with a more complete and comprehensive picture of Madame Chiang, I have to say we are very grateful Director Lin Leh-chyun kindly re-edited the film overnight before he left Taiwan. So, especially for this particular event. So we are very grateful for this, and we are in for a special treat, okay? So, okay. After the screening, we will have a Q&A session, and please raise questions and have an in-depth discussion with Director Lin. But before we start the film, I was asked to do several things. So bear with me. I will explain a little bit about our program. Won't be long, don't panic. As well as their artistic values, the selection of the films in this particular series is to integrate with existing Taiwan courses and seminars at SOAS. But everyone can join and take part. I mean the seminar, not the course, of course. The films shown in the series will reflect key themes that we concerned, such as important trends in Taiwan's history, cross-strait and international relations, and also social and economic and cultural changes. So, and also we want to express our thanks on behalf of all of us in the Center of Taiwan Studies. We want to express our thanks for the support that we have received from the Ministry of Culture. Thank you very much, Director Lin, and the Public Television Service. It is they have given us loads of help and without any problem. So, and in particular, we would like to thank the generous donation of Dr. Samuel Ying. Because of him, and of course all these very enthusiastic and supportive institutions that we would have, otherwise we would not have been able to put this up and let you enjoy all these things. Okay, so now, without further ado, let's start the screening. Okay, thank you. Do you want? Oh, and can, before we do anything, sorry, Nikki, I'm sorry, I didn't, I think Director Lin also want to say something.
Just a few words. I want to thank Dr. Chiang for making me at home in London, and I want to thank Dr. Phil for the invitation. And I want to thank all of you for coming to here for the screening tonight. I hope after the screening, you'll find the evening worthwhile of your time. And the reason I re-edit a little bit is a simple re-edit because in the beginning, the first 12 minutes of the episode 1 is about the background of Madame Chiang Kai-shek. I think it's rather important because even I had a few knowledge really about who she was before I produced this documentary. So I think it's important to give you some background. Then the episode 1 is titled East and West, and so it gave you she has a rather unique background compared to other Chinese. The family itself is also quite unique. They're really a significant example of exchange between East and West. So after that, you will see the title sequence again as a divider. Then we're into the exile years. And that has much more related to Taiwan. So we can just give you a brief introduction about the structure of what we're going to see. Then after that, we can have a discussion. Thanks for coming.
Okay. Maybe you would like to sit maybe one side of the theater, so Jewel will make sure that you're not being filmed. Okay, I don't think anyone object to this, and because we have a little bit problem of microphone situation, so could you raise your voice when you want to ask any questions? So now we we take questions from the floor. Would you like to sit down?
Yeah. Before your question, I will briefly tell you a little bit. As you see at the end of I think everybody can hear it. At the end of credit, it was produced in 2003. Actually, we aired when we were producing it. Madame Chiang Kai-shek was still alive, so we kind of always have this worry. She will leave us in the middle of the production. So this is a constant worry. So we finally would air the program in between October 15th and 17th, 2003. It was aired as a primetime special documentary at 8 p.m. for 3 consecutive evenings. And the program received the highest rating in documentary by PDS. It lasts until today. And so I was I also served as the news director at the Times and producing this film. So I have a candle burning both hands. Every day after I finish my news part of the work, I start working on the documentary. And so I finally also took a day of break on the 24th, a week after we aired it. So I sleep late that morning. I think I woke up like 10:30 or something. I had some things to take care, so I drove out. Then at about 11 or 11:30, I got a phone call from the office. So many passed away, just a week after we aired it. So I had my boss called me up. They wanted us to do a special that night behind the scene of the production, so as a live broadcast. So all of a sudden she became a center of attention again, and we have buyers from everywhere for the program, and we rerun it many times. And the Phoenix bought it right away to air it to audience in China. So just like very typical Someli, she always making waves, even at the end. So at the end, we have, according to the rating figure, about 7-8 million people watch our documentary at one time or the other. That accounts to about 1/3 of the population in Taiwan. And even today, the DVD still is on top of the list of PDS programs. Not only for documentary, but all programs. We opened up to mainland tourists to Taiwan several years back. And as far as I know, almost all tourist buses carrying mainland tourists show this documentary. And many mainland tourists buy this documentary. They are very interested in the history of the Chiang family, which they didn't have a chance to get to know in mainland. So this little lantern still shows its power. It still glows. Okay, so all questions are welcome. Yes?
I wonder if you could talk a little bit about how you actually chose the interviewees. I thought that was one of the things that was really interesting about the documentary, because you have interviewees in mainland China, as well as in Taiwan and the US. So that meant that you must have done some filming in mainland China.
Yes.
And I wonder whether that posed any problems, particularly because this has been made in the DBP era.
Yes. Actually, not much of a problem. Actually, the attitude toward Chiang has been changing gradually. And that's also a very interesting aspect. Chiang, that's an interesting part you brought up. We didn't have problem setting up appointment and interview the mainland scholars and filming, because we use big, large ENGs, camcorder. We need to get official approval from the Beijing government to film in China. We didn't have any real problem at all. Actually, Chiang was treated like a ghost-like figure in mainland. Everything is forbidden. Gradually, he
he returns to be a human being in China. And in Taiwan, Chiang is treated as a god. But now he become another human being. So just as a human being. So he, in both sides of the strait, Chiang Kai-shek become a person, not a god or ghost. That's an interesting part. Okay, to answer your question, we did lots of research. The research is done by really our researcher, writer, and interviewer is experts on political figures. Actually, the challenge for me is really put together a good production team. The team is rather small. I'm the producer, and I hire a director, a female director, purposely. I hire a female director. I think it's important to have this female sensitivity. And she just did a documentary on one of the victims of the, we call it White Terror era of Taiwan, who suffered from the regime of Chiang Kai-shek. And, but she's a visual person. I need a good word person who really good at doing this type of research and interviews. It took me several months to locate this person. I knew this would be one of the keys to this document because, I mean, doing a Madame Chiang Kai-shek documentary, you're going to get attention, and we cannot fail the expectation. So eventually, I located the person Lin Ying, who is a deputy assistant managing editor of Commonwealth Publishing, and her specialty is the biography of political figures. So she has the sensitivity and experiences in dealing with top-level politicians. And she's also very knowledgeable on this aspect. So we start, the team was put together at the end of 2001, and we officially start doing the project in May 2002. The first phase of the production is really Lin Ying does this alone, mainly she herself. She spent 6 months doing research full-time. She became very busy. She looked over a lot of materials and reading and writings in addition to knowledge of herself. And we did have new findings through these researches. The first thing we found is really the material scattered around. There are lots of material. But really, there is no one single in-depth study on Song Mei-lin at all. There are books about her, there are material about her, but there is no historical scholar really put efforts in studying this person, although she has really has a lot of impact on the modern Chinese history. So we had to do lots of study. As you saw, partly Chiang Kai-shek has a writing called the Love Memo, IG. In here, on what you see here about his, he talked about his relationship with his, Love Memo is about, is taken from his diary about his relationship with the family only. And many people talk about the relationship between Song Mei-lin and Madame and Chiang Kai-shek because they're kind of very different type of person, right? As you can see, Song Mei-lin is very westernized. Chiang Kai-shek is a soldier, a very local soldier, okay? And the Japanese training, very different from this American way. How can they get together? Do they have a real life, real marriage? They didn't have kids, right? So there are many rumors. But in this love memo, Lin Ying discovered for the first time, Chiang Kai-shek wrote about Song Mei-lin had a miscarriage. That was never revealed, never revealed. So this documentary revealed that for the first time. It was in the first episode, okay? So, so the research is rather important. Also, you saw briefly a stained glass portrait of Song Mei-lin in this episode. We have more extended talk about that in previous episode, also in the Chinese version. By the way, Chinese version is 3 hours. That stained glass portrait is also a very interesting part of the history. It was when Lin was doing a research, she came upon a 1-inch story in the newspaper, very small, a short story, a wire story from the Central News Agency, talk about this portrait, but not in detail. But when Lin told me about this, I said, wow, this is something we have to look into it. You know, we look for visual things. Okay. As you can see, a written history and the visual history are not quite the same. So I look at that small news clippings. It rose my interest. So he says in the Methodist Church in Washington, D.C. So I just look up I just called the operator in Washington. I said, could you give me the phone number of Methodist Church? Boy, there are over 500. So I said, give me anyone, any one of the Methodist Church. So I just called. I had to do this in the late evening because we have 12-hour time difference. So I just called up. One of the priest answered my phone. I got to talk to a priest. He didn't know about it, but we are very lucky. There's a museum of the Methodist Church in Washington. So I called up the museum. Finally, an old priest knew about this. So it was at the, let me see, where it is. Oh, we finally found it. It's at the Foundry United Methodist Church, the oldest Methodist church in Washington, D.C. And actually, there were 4 stained glass portraits. And it was done at the end of 1943, after Madame Chiang Kai-shek's visit to the U.S. And it represents Roosevelt's 4 freedom. And this Madame Chiang Kai-shek represents freedom from want. And it symbolized Chinese people's struggle for the right to survive. And because this church has been renovated over the year, the stained glass was covered by new part of the church. Even the people in the church didn't realize the existence of this portrait. Not until we lit it up with light and it suddenly come to life. And that's one part of the thing we discovered in the documentary. I think it's very important for historical documentary to come up with some new stuff, some new evidences. And in this documentary, we try to locate something new. For example, the Madame Chiang Kai-shek's letter to the Secretary General of the KMT about whether they should elect Lee Teng-hui as the head of the party. She wrote 2 letters. Nobody ever seen it. And Li Huan decided for the first time reveal it to us. And it's really because of Li Yingting's long-lasting relationship with Li Huan, and who made this happen. So it's very important you have a good team. The team is very small. I'm the producer, we have a word person, we have a visual person, we have a photographer and an assistant. That's it. That's about the team. Okay.
Great. Any
Yes.
question? Michael, please.
Obviously, there are many other things in the 3-hour version. Michael Ford.
Yeah.
There must have been something about the 228. One thing that intrigued me, there was nothing about Chiang Kai-shek's time in Russia and his Russian wife, and I can't help wondering what she thought about the Russian wife and whether they ever met and so on. What do you have about that?
I didn't have a chance to ask her.
Do you mean that the relationship between the mother-in-law and the foreign or Russian daughter?
Well, it wasn't. Yes, the fact that he was in Russia probably caused rumors about him and so on. That seems to be a factor.
I think you raise very, very interesting questions. But allow me to answer this way. she's a legend across 3 centuries. There's so many things you can talk about her. Yeah, there are several books about her, all about this sick. When we do documentaries, actually, the script for each hour-long episode is only about 10,000 words. So, a visual documentary is only a representation of a person. We cannot tell about the person in detail, but tell the person in the visual ways. So we are not able to talk about all the things related to her. And this issue, interesting issue you raised, is not in our radar in talking about her. But we do have a 5-hour documentary on Jiang Jingguo, if you're interested. It took 4 years to produce. I didn't produce it. It's an independent filmmaker did it for the public TV.
And I should say that we do have that 5-hour documentary in the SOAS library. Last week we opened a new resource centre for Taiwan Studies in the SOAS library. Yes. And part of that was approximately 100 DVDs made by public television service. Yeah. Including the ones we've seen today. So if you enjoy these, then go to join the SOAS library.
In it, also very interesting.
That is a very good documentary. That one.
Yeah.
Borrow the real ones.
Yeah. Some footage from Russian archive.
There's one.
Yes.
What you were saying about your visual sphere for making documentaries, is that why you focused mainly on the personal aspect of her life, because it was easier to fit into the visual scope of the documentary as opposed to a more political approach to Madam Chiang's post-war Taiwan politics? Was that sort of key in your thinking, or were you trying to balance it between her personal life and her politics life?
Okay. I really need to show the episode 1. So, you can really divide her life into 3 parts: in China, in the States, and in Taiwan. Taiwan is the exile years. The stage become very small. There's only so much things she can do. Yeah, and so we had more material to talk about her private life. Her life in China and the US, there is no witness available to talk about her private life, very few. And actually in part 1, or the first 2 hours of Chinese version, is about her role in modern China. The role she plays, like in Xi'an incident, when Chiang Kai-shek was house arrested by Zhang Xueliang and want to force him to make peace with communists. How Madame Chiang Kai-shek went actually to save her Chiang Kai-shek, and the way how she addressed the U.S. public and Congress, so the U.S. will be the aid to China. Actually, the U.S. revoked the China Exclusion Act a year after her visit. So your question is mainly on part 1. We didn't only focus on her private life. It's try to reflect the entire life of her. But actually in Taiwan part, there aren't really very much she can really play. So in that part, we try to show the private life. We were able to interview some people who has a close encounter with them, which was not available before. Yes.
Hi, so Jeremy, I was at SOAS before.
Okay.
There's the few things I like to mention. First was, when I saw this, I couldn't help but think of, compare her somehow with the wife of Diem, leader, South Vietnam, because she was also quite a prominent figure, and she would go to the US as well and have a presence there, etc. I got a bit confused at times with the names, I have to admit. That's just a small remark. But also, again, relationships. I was thinking, I kept on asking myself about the relationship with her sisters.
Yes.
You know, what happened afterwards? Because, so we saw the Nanjing massacre, and we also saw in Chongqing the three sisters walking around, and at that moment we understand that there's a problem, but then there's no mention of it afterwards. So
a little bit more of that in the Chinese version.
Oh, okay.
Because in the English version, we have to shorten half of it. So it's always a difficult choice. You have to choose. And compared to the other sister who, let me see, the Song Qinglin mainly is really stay in mainland China, also very prominent. But it's really which aspect you think is more important. We have a footage over 70 hours. At the end, we had produced 3 hours in Chinese, a half hour, 1.5 hours in English. So it's always a matter of choice, and the choice is always very difficult. So that's the difference between a visual medium and the text. In text, you can write in detail, but visual is always. I always have this always challenged by the director. How am I going to show it without visuals? So that's always a challenge. So sometimes we have to leave out things that we cannot have good visuals. We cannot show from beginning to the end just cloud and the buildings. So that's a challenge. We want to have substance, but at the same time, we want to have visuals so you can experience who she is and her time. For example, the speech in the Congress, you really have to hear it to understand the power she when she speaks. When you read the speech, it's rather long. It's a very long speech. It's totally different from when you hear it. So that's the power of a visual documentary. You can really feel who she is. The purpose really about the film is we try to show what kind of person she is. So the archival material is very important. We have to work around the archival and the written material. So it's it's always a difficult choice to leave things out. She lived for too long. Maybe I shouldn't say for too long. She lived very long. Okay, so she involved so much part of the history, and everybody has a concern of different things. So I can only say we try to balance what we have. Yes, please.
Richard Pascoe, Great Britain China Centre. I was absolutely fascinated with the revelations about the personal side of this great woman, but also it was quite clear coming through also that you revealed some very interesting aspects of the personal life of Generalissimo Chiang Kai-shek himself, this great historical figure. Were there new things that came out about Chiang Kai-shek himself in your work? And did this lead to anything in terms of further analysis, further revelations about his sort of personal life? I mean, is there an equivalent personal documentary about Chiang Kai-shek himself, or have you considered doing one, perhaps?
I know there's some people doing that, but there's no really lead documentary of Chiang Kai-shek yet. I'm very hesitant to do a Chiang Kai-shek documentary. That will probably take another 4 years. And that is a huge. I think PTS should, the public TV should do it, but it's going to take a huge effort, much more than Song Meiling. The love memo I mentioned was newly declassified document at the time when we were doing the research. And because, of course, now after the Chiang Kai-shek diary is in the Hoover Institute of Stanford University. That was only opened up, I think, in 2004. Let me see. That was pretty recent. Oh, Jiang Fangziyi, the granddaughter-in-law of Chiang Kai-shek, sent all the. Actually, let me begin with this. It was after Jiang Jingguo died. They shipped Chiang Kai-shek's the diary to the States. I think they feel it's unsafe to keep in Taiwan. At the time, there are total 60 volumes, covering 55 years. So it's very important. And in the year 2006, Jiang Fangziyi, the granddaughter-in-law, gave it to Hoover Institute. The term is for them to keep it for 50 years until they can find a suitable institute, Chinese institute, to keep it. And the Hoover Institute allow people to view it but not copy it. So there are people copied with handwriting, and so you can see many coming out in China. And actually, the Academia Sinica of Taiwan was ready to publish it, but then there was a lawsuit involved. One of the great-granddaughter of Chiang Kai-shek filed a lawsuit against, let me see, Jiang Youmei filed a lawsuit. Jiang Youmei is the daughter of the oldest son of Chiang Kai-shek. She filed a lawsuit against Jiang Fangziyi about she has no right to, this right should belong to all family members. And also Stanford, the Hoover Institute, also filed a lawsuit against Jiang Fangziyi. But just a couple weeks ago, I went to this, the National Archive of Taiwan screened this film, Madame Chiang Kai-shek, our film, recently, and Jiang Fangziyi was invited as a guest speaker, and she was asked about this diary issue. She said the problem will be resolved soon. So actually, I think there are many things you can look into on Chiang Kai-shek's diary. But this also raise another interesting issue. The current, the head of the National Archive, Li Fangshang, said when he was a researcher at the Academia Sinica when we did a film, he said actually the study now is also the best time and the worst time to study the Chiang family. Why is the best? Because documents are declassified. The worst is the Chiang is not, study Chiang is no longer fashion in Taiwan. So when the Daxi file opened up, where we were able to see the love memo, actually that was very recent when we did the documentary. Most of the scholars went to study the Daxi file are foreign scholars, not domestic scholars. You can't get a grant to study the Chiang-related subject. Maybe we should ask the Ministry of Culture. Okay, you get grant to study Taiwan matters. The focus totally changed. So that's interesting thing. I'm sure this is if we look into Chiang Kai-shek's diary, we're going to see many more things. Actually, our researcher, writer Lin Leh-chyun says she was actually quite amazed about Chiang's passion towards So Mei-ling, because we used to feel Chiang such figure, very rigid person, and So Mei-ling is totally different. What kind of relationship there would exist? Would there be any romance at all? But from the love memo, you see a different person, and the Lin Leh-chyun, our writer researcher, was shocked.
I was so surprised.
That was never revealed. Yeah.
And may I also ask, have you had much interest from mainland Chinese historians on the subject? There must be huge interest in mainland China in
Actually, many documentaries follow our documentary.
Right.
Many documentary about So Mei-ling and Chiang Kai-shek appeared, and I look at one documentary, just taken all our cut our documentary into pieces and become their own documentary. That's one of the documentary I saw. I took it as a compliment. Yeah, there are huge interest. Yeah.
In mainland China.
Yeah, as you can see, our DVD sale of so many, Madame Chiang Kai-shek is still on top of the list. The buyers are mostly mainlanders. Oh, even though they are pirate copy all over China, but still, they want to buy the authentic one. Okay, yes.
My name is Dean Chandler. I'm speaking about now the wealth of Madam Chiang.
Yeah.
And I know in the first documentary, they talked about between the 1920, 1940, the relations were involved in running the country finances. So what I want to ask, what was Madam Chiang's personal wealth? Either when she died or just before she died or something, or during her lifetime?
Yeah, that's. I think everybody is interested in that when we talk about that. But first, it's very difficult, really, to have any documents reveal that. Madame Chiang has no press interview for last half a century before she died, and she didn't write any memoir, and she lived a very secretive life, so very few access to her. In the beginning of the first episode, you see the birthday celebration. That's the last public. When I say public, means close circles appearance. So we didn't have any information on that. So that's how we treated that part, that with the first person account of the journalist, because we there are a lot of he said and she says, but we want to approve before to be whatever we use in the documentary, we want it to be able to stand up the challenges. Yeah, I'm interested in that too. So, but I don't know. But they obviously live very well.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, one interesting side story is when we air in the documentary, I always look for things we can promote the story. So right before we aired it, I found that the limousine of Madame Chiang Kai-shek, when she lived in Long Island, New York, was up on sale on eBay. So I contacted the China Times. We did a story on that. The TV station followed up. They went to Long Island to interview the chauffeur. So
How much
that's,
they got it?
that's old type of a big limo. Yeah. So that was one of their property. Yeah. Also, when I was a reporter in New York for a Chinese newspaper before I started working on TV. I was there in between '83 and '92, and one day I saw this auction ad in the New York Times. It was the auction of the stuff in the Long Island house she used to live, including painting by Madame Chiang Kai-shek. So I did a story, and the place is flocked with tourists. Yeah. So those are the things we knew. But other than that, just many rumors we can't prove. Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Sir, my name is Cheryl.
Yeah.
Just a member of the General Public.
Yeah.
I'm interested in your personal impression of Madame Chiang before you did the documentary, and
Okay.
how has that changed after you produced it, and also whether that has changed your sort of news reporting as well.
Okay. Producing documentary is a learning process. I only know the image and the name. That's about it. So I was born in Taiwan. My parents went to Taiwan from China right before the fall of China to the communists. So I had this TV image of Chiang Kai-shek and Madame Chiang Kai-shek. That was about it, and some rumors. They were so distant. Chiang Kai-shek passed away when I was in high school. So I didn't really know very much. Also, the film we're going to show about Lee Teng-hui, the former president of Taiwan, I didn't really know him that much as well. So this is a self-discovery process and a history lesson for myself. So after we did this, we can only say that, wow, what a person. Whether you like her or not, she is really unique. So we call her a legend across 3 centuries. I think very, very few can compare to her. I think she's very unique in a way because her family, as you saw, her father went to the States very early on and went back to China, and she printed Bibles. She is not from an average Chinese family. The family is an example of exchange between East and West. And Song Meiling is a special, unique example of this exchange. And in all the study and history writings, very few touch upon the female role in this exchange. And Song Meiling happened to be so unique. And from her, we can see this exchange between East and West. And I think that is very meaningful. And also, in that earlier days, she's so independent. She has a strong will, and she carry out her strong will by actual action. She is not a subordinate of a male figure at all. And as you see in not in what we saw in the Cairo conference, there are Churchill, Roosevelt, Stalin, Chiang Kai-shek, and her. You always see the picture of them. Not the wife of other world leaders. And if I quote, let me see. I wrote it down here. After the Cairo conference, let me see. Oh, Roosevelt said, as I quote, "I got to know her, but the fellow Chiang." Yeah, so she is not the ordinary. She represents a very unique type of a female. And in the history of China, there are some strong female figures, but they normally gain their power through their son, who become the emperor, the emperor to be. But Song Meiling didn't have any kids. So she built this up all by her own. And Chiang Kai-shek depends on her quite a bit. And that makes her very unique. So as soon as I think anyone you see her speech in the Congress, her address to the Congress, I think you can tell what a unique person she is. And her life is really fascinating. So this is an incredible learning experience for me. Yeah.
Yes, I must say that her speech concerning England.
Yeah.
When
Yes. How do you? I'd like to hear your reaction.
The silver. England benefited from the silver. That was really a sting in the tail, actually.
You need to hear she said it, right?
There's one more question we can ask, because that girl actually, okay, 2 of you.
Yeah, okay.
Quick ones, please.
Yeah.
Yes, sorry. I'm from Asian politics. I'm just curious about the relationship between the 3 sisters as well. And I've heard a saying goes that Meiling loved, Song Meiling loved power, and
Yes.
Qing Ling loved the country. Ling loved money. So in your several research, is that do you think that really makes sense? And is there any story or something they never revealed, maybe some later between the 3 sisters, and is there really some conflict between them?
Okay.
Can we take 2 questions first, then you can answer together? Sorry, we don't have too much time.
I'm currently studying LSE. My question is, there is currently some rumor saying that after Jiang Shaoyong, he just not allowed his later generation to enter the political stage again. Is that true? Or do you find any evidence doing?
That I think was Jiang Jingguo already said that. Jiang Jingguo said that.
There was a lot of rumors.
Yeah. Jiang Jingguo state that. That's I know we know that for sure. Yeah, and that's why he cultivate the local people. That's one reason. So he already has in his later years he has a different mindset. You know, it's just very difficult for a strong man to give away the power. Yes. So although Jiang Jingguo has many faults in his early years, but at the end it was him that really in a way allowed the opposition party to rise and open up for people to visit mainland. And so that's I think at the end that was his contribution to the democracy of Taiwan. It was also very significant. If he maintained a tight grip, then I think Taiwan won't be democratized so soon. Yeah, and to answer your question, I have to answer this lady's question. What I learned from producing this is, without research, I cannot comment. Wow. So I can only comment that So Mei-ling does love power. Yeah, and she is very good at it. Not only she is very capable, but also she knows how to take advantage of her female quality to address to the Westerners and to get assistance from the Westerners. As to the other two sisters, before I study them, I cannot answer you. Okay. That's a lesson I learned in producing the documentary. History is so complicated. So without study, even after the documentary, there's still many things I don't know.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. We are sadly run out of time, but as you know, we have a reception outside. Just before you leave, please, I would like to thank Director Lin again, and that's good. And also, I would like to thank the students actually come today to help Lily and Wei Chen. Thank you very much. We are very grateful. And also our team, Dr. Fao and Miss Low, and someone, Nikki, was here, but controlling the light, but he had to run. But so I have to say thank you very much. And also tomorrow, yes. Of course, we will see you tomorrow, won't we? Because tomorrow will be even more exciting. Probably people get into a more excited mood about a subject matter. Tomorrow's a documentary, Lee Teng-hui, and we are looking forward to seeing you tomorrow night. Okay.
It's
bye-bye.
Like a sequel to this film.
Yeah.
You want to know what happened afterwards. After Madame Chiang Kai-shek left Taiwan, Taiwan was turned around. Okay, thank you very much.
Okay.